Hi, friends, and welcome back to Behind the Forum, our program that allows us to go a little bit deeper with our guests at the Bonita Christian Forum. Tonight, we are so blessed to have two gentlemen who have had exceptional careers in college football and beyond. Joining me in studio is Coach Jim Tressel and Coach Mark Dantonio. As we begin this evening, Coach Tressel, I want to start with you. I feel like in some ways this conversation is a little bit providential, coming right off the heels of an Ohio State national championship. As a coach, you experienced it firsthand, and you were there in January when it all went down. So I'm curious if you could walk us through what it was like in the shoe when it was going down and how it relates to 2002.
Wow. Every year is so different. And when you're intimately involved, like we were in 2002, and then you're kind of on the sidelines, and I had a chance to go over to practice a little bit this year, and you could see they were very talented, and they had a little adversity at the end of the year, which really galvanized them, and to watch how they played in that 4-game run against Tennessee and Oregon, and they were on a roll, and it was fun just watching them and happy for their staff and their players and the Buckeye Nation.
Absolutely. It was an incredible season to watch. One of the subtexts to that season was that there was a little bit of a revival that took place on campus in the fall. I'm curious if either of you have any insights into the revival, how it related to the football team, and then the success that they had.
I had heard about that it was going on, but I didn't have any firsthand experience about it. But I have heard that it's been going on, and I've heard that around some different campuses. So it's good to see. I think it's very enlightening.
When Mark and I started at Ohio State, I started in '83, and you started in '84. Is that right?
'83.
Oh, you also '83. Okay. We had a young guy come on staff with the Athletes in Action named Jim Schmidtke. And Jim is still there, and Jim can take you through a chronological growth in the players and their interaction and their faith demonstration. And, it's interesting. On college campuses today, you're seeing lots of various things. And we were talking at the State House here a couple weeks ago, and someone was talking about some of the stuff going on college campuses, and somehow the media caught me and whatever. And I said, well, that's the beauty of America, right? You can share what you think. And I said, they had thousands of people on the Ohio State campus, and they're handing out Bibles, and there are other things that they talk about, and that's the beauty of it. But it really made an impact on that campus that evening. But it's been going on for 40-plus years.
And it went on a lot with your leadership there. I want to go back in time just a little bit and think together about the beginning of your working relationship. You gentlemen served on staff together at Youngstown State and then at Ohio State. Talk to us a little bit about how the chemistry has developed between you guys and how that relationship continues to develop.
Well, he might have a different opinion, so you start.
Well, I first met Coach Tress in 1983, as he said, when I came to Ohio State as a graduate assistant. He was the quarterback coach. And that's when I met him. And then I actually went to work, left there, and went to the University of Akron. And then he became the head coach at Youngstown, and I went over there for 5 years. And learned a lot. There's a lot of growth. I'm sure he'll roast me here a little bit. He always does. I think that's why he brings me along, actually. But it's been a great relationship, and I've learned a lot and appreciate him. Appreciate him as a man and as a mentor to young people.
You're blessed when you have great coaches you work with. In fact, we tell young coaches all the time, it's not where you coach, it's with whom. And, we had the good fortune of being young assistant coaches at Ohio State together. And then we were trying to build a program together at Youngstown State. And, Youngstown State didn't have a giant coaching staff. I think we had, 6 assistants?
Six.
Yep, 6
yeah,
coaches.
We had 6.
And they went now, they have 20, I think, on the staffs. But so we got to grow together, and we got to figure it all out. And then we had a little separation where, Mark went on to Kansas and Michigan State, and the first guy I called when I was fortunate enough to be heading to Ohio State was Mark, because it's who you coach with, and I knew what he stood for. I knew what was important to him. I knew he'd be the right kind of man with our players, because we were going in to start over again. And, we'd been there before. And I think you want people who understand what you believe in. X's and O's come and go and all that. But if you have people around, and one of our dear friends, Jim Bowman, who's also a resident here. In fact, he's a full resident.
He is. He's a full-time resident.
Full-time resident. He was with us the whole time. And he was a spiritual mentor of ours throughout. But you're blessed if you work with people who know the Lord, who hold you, responsible for all you say and do, and who love young people. In our case, we worked with young people, and so this guy, what he did at Michigan State, no one has ever done in the history of the school. And we're always proud to say, we grew up together.
Well, you guys certainly have a lot of professional accolades. Winningest coach to Michigan State history, obviously a national championship together. But part of what made your relationship so significant was also the way in which you valued the mentorship and development of your folks. There was a poem that you instilled in your students. Could you talk to us a little bit about that poem and the values that you wanted to convey with that?
I think Pastor Rogers was talking about our I am only one, before we would go out onto the field. And I don't care if you're coaching at Youngstown State or playing at Youngstown State or coaching at Michigan State or Ohio State. Before the game, you're nervous. That's just the way it is. And so we wanted, right before we would go out on the field, to one last time remind one another what we needed from one another. And so we had a little poem by Edward Everett Hale that I think it was like 7 verses long, but we were a football team. We only did one verse. We couldn't do the whole thing. But I think if you talk to any of our players, over 25 years in our case, they could tell you that they remember the poem. They might stumble through it a little bit, but it was a great poem. And are you putting me on the spot to do it? Is that because I can do it?
I won't put you on the spot, but I did bring it in case we wanted to share it with our viewers.
I am only one, but I am one.
Yep.
I can't do everything, but I can do something. And that I can do, I ought to do. And what I ought to do, by the grace of God, I shall do. And that's really all we need from each other, right? Is whatever we can do.
That's it. Well, you guys are also each deeply religious, and I'm just curious who your mentors were spiritually. You mentioned one, but who were the folks that really led you to know the Lord?
Well, I have to go with my high school coach. He sent me to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp, and I didn't know why he was sending me, but whatever the coach wanted, and that's where I found my faith and began my faith journey. Fortunately, I had a lot of guys on my staffs over the course of the years that wanted to grow together. Mark used to bring in these videos. We used to watch these videos every Friday. And what was your guy's name?
My guy
that did the videos.
Oh, yeah.
Vander.
Yeah, he was. You had the videos.
Oh, I had the videos, but it was your guy.
But it was a Michigan guy.
It was a Michigan guy. But when you have people around you to mentor you, and we had players mentor us.
Absolutely. We had players mentor us at Michigan State, Cincinnati, Ohio State. You learn, you don't just learn from coaches, you learn from players too. And that's what I saw. And, for me personally, it was my mom and dad first, but then along my journey through my life, people helped get me stronger. My wife, big part of it. The coaches that I was fortunate to be around, some players, some athlete in action people like Jim Schmidtke and some different people along the way. Bill Gillespie at Michigan State. But, Father Jake, Father Joe, they would come in, and Father Jake Folio, who was like 85 years old, told me he was going to come in, he was going to be with me to the end, and he was. Mm-hmm. He's gone now, but he was with me through the very end, and very strong individual, passionate about his faith, and, you could feel his faith as you walked with him through life. So there were so many different people in my life that has strengthened me along the course of time.
You know, and I think whether you're on a team or you're in a business or you're in a community, wherever you are, we switched where we coached, a few times, but you always seek out the people that can help you grow. And we were fortunate that we had so many people that did that. And I would urge the viewers that you can't do without that discipleship.
Coach Dantonio, I want to go back to you for just a moment. Knowing you retired a couple of years ago, you've stayed close to the scene and have continued mentorship and consulting. What does this new phase look like for you?
Oh, I'm basically retired. I stepped back in there when they needed me for a couple months, but I'll do whatever they need me to do, just like Tress. I think that's something that you grow up with, and when you've been at a place for a while, you feel a sense of responsibility to help people continue to grow, and that's all. That's all I've tried to do is be there when I could, and went to the game the other day, this weekend, and saw so many people, saw my players. Really, the highlight of the game was seeing Coach Izzo and his players, who are tremendous individuals, and then also seeing a couple of my players that had come to the game.
Coach Tressel, this last question is for you. Your career has taken several major pivots. First as a college football coach, then as a university president, and then most recently, as your plan was all along, I suppose, Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio. Talk to us about those transitions and how it has caused you to grow through them.
Well, I think anytime you start planning for what you think it's going to look like, God kind of smiles and, says, I've got probably some other ideas for you, but you have to listen close and you have to follow your calling. And in college, I was going to be a high school math teacher and coach high school football and live happily ever after. And it didn't end up that way. I ended up at the University of Akron, and Coach Dennison, who hired both of us at one point in our careers, gave me my first job. And so then, 40 years later, I coached all those years and hadn't been one day as a math teacher or a high school coach. And, as fate would have it, Youngstown State had gone through some turmoil with like 3 presidents in 4 years, and they were looking for someone just to bring some stability and make sure the community knew the new president loved them and wasn't going to leave in 6 months and so forth. So, that happened. We made the agreement I'd stay 3 years, and 8.7 years later, not that I counted, and then I said to Coach Dantonio and Coach Bowman, I said, I'm finally going to get a chance to come down here to Southwest Florida. We're going to play golf, which I never took up golf as seriously as Mark did, and that lasted short.
1 year.
1 year.
3 times, I think.
3 times. We played 9 holes. And then, when the governor asked if I'd help, Ellen reminded me that God had some more work for me to do. And so, you just listen to his calling and then try to do your best.
That seems to be the common thread between those 3 significant different jobs that you have held there. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of this Behind the Forum. This has been a great season. You guys are our 4th guests on this season of Behind the Forum, and we're so grateful for you. Thank you for tuning in for this last episode of Behind the Forum for the 20th season of the Bonita Christian Forum, and we will see you next season. God bless you.